All right. Good morning, everybody. This morning we're going postal because it's a Texas judge has just ruled in the last few days that the ban on carry in the post office is unconstitutional based on the Bruen test showing no historical analog in law for such a restriction on your Second Amendment rights. So let's pull that article up. And here we go. So, Texas judge says guns can't be banned from post offices. Now, let me get the most important bit out of the way. This is a single federal judge. This has not been challenged or ruled on in the Supreme Court yet. So the ruling at present only applies to the plaintiffs and the associated gun organizations. This is not a blanket, hey, you can carry your gun in the post office yet. Oh, this one's kind of a big deal for me personally. Oh, and for Americans generally. See, when it comes right down to it, the ban on carrying your firearm in places like the post office or the VA, etc., it's obnoxious, right? Without getting into carrying on military bases, etc., which is another question altogether. In the current instantiation, in order to be fully compliant with the law, you have to leave your firearm at home before you go to somewhere like the post office, the VA, a federal building, right? And I'm not talking about a secure location. I'm not even talking about in the courthouse, right? Which let's be frank, if you're not a criminal, if you haven't been arrested, you're not being escorted into the courthouse by armed guards in handcuffs because of the nature of your crimes. It is unreasonable for you to be disarmed in the courthouse as well. It is unreasonable for you to be forcibly disarmed by armed men, which is always and everywhere the case. Anywhere that you are banned from carrying your firearm, you are being disarmed by armed agents of the government. Right? Quite frankly, between the Second Amendment and U.S. Code 18, Section 242, suppression of civil liberties under color of law, if you are involuntarily unarmed, every police officer that you see in the course of a day like that is a criminal in violation of 242 by the very dint of carrying a firearm and being personally responsible for causing you under duress to be unconstitutionally disarmed. But the law doesn't want to work that way. If, let's say I got to go to the VA because I'm a disabled veteran and that's where I go to see my doctor. I don't even need to carry my firearm into the building, right? Let's say I know I'm going to go in and I'm going to have to disrobe for an MRI or something. I know I'm going in where I'm going to have to take a test. I'm going to have to take all my clothes off, put on a little hospital gown. Okay. I'll leave my pistol in the truck, right? No. Even then, you are not in compliance with the law, right? So if you're somebody who carries every day, right, my VA is an hour away from my house. That means if I want to be fully compliant with the law, I have to leave my firearm at home and go disarmed involuntarily under threat of death, because all law enforcement is enforced under threat of death. Never forget that. To go and see my doctor. Right? Now, when I go to like my chiropractor, for example, my chiropractor is a civilian. Right? There's no law, there's no rule, there's nothing that says I can't carry in the chiropractor's office. But I'm going to the chiropractor's office. I'm getting my back worked on. Right? So my pistol's going to get in the way of that activity. So while he's working on my back, I'm either going to take it off and set it on the chair next to the what do they call it? The compression table, or I'm going to leave it in the car. And in those, I'm perfectly right with the law there. But under the law as it sits, if I'm out running errands and one of those errands happens to be I'm stopping by the post office to drop off a package, then in order to be compliant with the law, I must either go about my entire day without my firearm, or go deal with the post office, go home, collect my firearm, rejoin the world of civilized, free men who carry a firearm because it is not only their right to do so, but their responsibility to do so, their duty to do so. Right? Because under the current rule, it's not that you can't carry your firearm into the building. It's that you're not legally allowed to have it on the property at all. So it's not like I can, run out, go by the printer, the copy store, print some flyers, right? Put them in envelopes, and then go to the post office, take my gun off, lock it in the truck where it's safe, and then go into the building to handle my business, come back out, put my gun back on, and go about my day. Right? See, even that would be an aggravation and inconvenience, but not nearly so severe an infraction, so severe an infringement. And like I've said many, many times, the word is infringe, shall not be infringed. Right? That means that any law which is in any way even tangentially related to firearms is a violation of the Constitution. And therefore, any signatory or sponsor to any law which in any way relates to firearms is a criminal. They have violated their oath of office. They've violated Section 242. They've violated your rights personally. You should look at every gun grabber as no different than someone trying to take your wallet at gunpoint on the street. They're an armed criminal. In fact, the real difference is when you're dealing with a mugger on the street, there's a good possibility that they don't have a large, organized, armed system behind them waiting to point 1,000 guns at you and murder you for disagreeing with their attempt to infringe on your personal private property rights, your right to keep and bear arms, etc. So what's the case? Texas judge says guns can't be banned from post offices. The judge found post office firearms bans unconstitutional under the Supreme Court's new Second Amendment history and tradition standard. The U.S. government cannot constitutionally keep people from carrying guns in and around post offices, a Texas federal judge ruled Tuesday, finding that such restrictions lack a historical basis. In his ruling, U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor cited the U.S. Supreme Court's 2022 ruling in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen, which is, we normally just refer to that as Bruen, which set a new standard for Second Amendment cases whereby gun restrictions have to be consistent with the nation's historical tradition in order to be constitutional. And for clarification, while the justices did not use the language I'm about to use, let's be very clear. For a law to be consistent with this nation's historical tradition as relates to the Second Amendment, it cannot be related to firearms in any way. That is the historical tradition of firearms in this country. Not until the 60s were guns just banned everywhere. I hate to beat on the boomers again, but y'all fucked us up in the 60s and 70s. Just absolutely just flushed this country down the toilet. He found that although mail carriers and post offices have faced threats since the founding, the government only banned firearm possession on postal property a little over 50 years ago. Even after the government started housing post offices in federal buildings in the early 1900s, it waited until 1964 to prohibit guns in federal buildings in 1972 to specifically prohibit firearms on postal property, O'Connor wrote. In other words, even though Congress and the founders were aware of the general societal problem of violence towards the postal service, the prohibition against firearms in post offices or on postal property did not appear until nearly 200 years after the founding. And for a little clarification on that historical tradition, the idea of a tendency of violence toward postal service, postal workers, the problem 200 years ago and in the period intervening from then until the 1960s was not that people were robbing post offices or that people were going into post offices and taking hostages or committing mass murder, etc. The problem of violence related to postal workers was that postal carriers on occasion carry valuable things, especially when you've got a wagon or a truck full of mail being transported from point A to parts unknown. The closer you are to leaving that original post office with your load for delivery, the higher the likelihood it is you're carrying value. And the further from the post office you get, the lower the likelihood that civilization is offering an adequate protection. So a savvy criminal is going to catch as close to just outside of town as they can to minimize law enforcement interference and maximize total property on board the carriage. Right? A stick up. You're talking about criminals who are gambling that in the big old truck that you're driving, you're going to have something of value. Mario, brother, I didn't even hear you pop in. I don't know how long you've been sitting there.
Just a minute. Yeah, everyone can hear me because I'm fucking congested.
I don't hear you.
Fuck. Why can't you hear me?
You're not there. I see you. I don't hear you. I see a red light on the end of your
How about now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Hold on. Let me see. It could be on my end.
The audience can hear me.
Okay, try again.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
It is not on my end. I don't hear you at all.
Really?
Rod
That's
says
strange.
he can hear you.
Yes, the audience can hear me. You can't hear me.
That's weird.
Maybe this is what happens when I show up late. Anyway.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
There you are.
Yeah, everyone can hear me.
I should be able to disconnect this now.
Because I wake up congested every morning. Everyone can hear me. Yes, I know. Anyway, so are you saying that post offices are citizen protection zones, fortresses in the heart of the dark city, okay, where armed citizens can begin the reclamation project of urban America?
Yeah, there's something going on my end, Mario, because I'm losing your audio. Well, okay. I don't know. You keep talking. I'm going to fix this on my end.
I don't know what to say. So, in unrelated news, I was just passively scanning the news this morning as I woke up late. The guy who did the Manchester stabbing, who
there we are.
The guy who crashed into the synagogue yesterday and stabbed up the people on what is it, Yom Kippur? On Yom Kippur? Yeah, his first name is Jihad. How is he not on your radar? His name is literally Jihad. Apparently, Jihad is the second most popular Muslim boy's name in the United Kingdom as well. So, just to give you a sense.
This happened yesterday?
Well, yeah, there was the stabbing. You didn't hear about that?
No, this didn't land on my radar at all this morning yet.
Dude, that's it. Okay, in Manchester, England, okay, which is like Memphis tier shithole, okay, in the United States comparison. Um, yeah, a jihadist crashed into a synagogue and went on a stabbing spree. Yesterday was also Yom Kippur, which is
Okay.
the day when the Jews basically choke a chicken to absolve themselves of their sin.
Yeah, they go.
Anyway,
They wave the live chicken over all the kids for yeah. Okay, so hold up. Let's finish up the post office story and then come back to this.
so that's what I was saying at first. Are the post offices now the is that the redoubt? Okay, is that the fortress? Is the post office the fortress within the heart of darkness of Americans' urban decline? Okay, where armed citizens begin the task of reclamation of our cities. Okay,
No.
is
So
there a poster of Stephen Miller on the walls of that USPS asking, "Are you packing, citizen? Are you?"
so the post office thing it does not apply to military bases or post offices that are in federal buildings, and it only applies at present until it's challenged and heard in the Supreme Court probably to the plaintiffs in the case and the gun organizations that were involved. And O'Connor, the judge in the case, O'Connor rejected the government's argument that the history and tradition test doesn't apply to firearm restrictions on property the federal government owns or leases, saying the government's status as a property owner doesn't allow it to bypass parts of the Constitution it deems unfavorable. Rod mentions there was a movie called The Postman, which was actually a great film. It was based on a book. The book was pretty good. The film was excellent. Kevin Costner doing post-apocalyptia. And there was a video game in the late 90s after the famous postal incident where a disgruntled postman went on a bit of a shooting spree. I used the thumbnail. I used the video game poster from Postal 4, No Regrets, for the thumbnail this morning.
Sorry, yeah, it's a little.
If you'll recall,
you have to be at least our age to get that reference. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but Tipper Gore went on an absolute freaking rampage over these violent video games. We haven't heard the conversation about violent video games in a while, which is interesting. And there's a whole conversation to be had there because so much. I mean, Mario, what did soldiers do when they weren't on mission in Iraq while you were there?
They're millennials, okay? They're Zoomers. They're gamers, all right?
Yeah, they played Call of Duty and Medal of Honor on Xboxes and PlayStations in their tents.
I'm not a real gamer, okay? I really the Twitch, okay? The Twitch action kind of games, I can't do that. I always get my ass kicked. I like topped out at GoldenEye on the N64 for that, okay? I played like Civilization. Civilization was my shit. Okay.
Hey, Rod asks, how do you open carry at a nudist colony?
Well, believe it or not, we have actually covered on this program concealed anal carry, okay?
We have.
It is a thing, okay?
We have the butt gun episode. It's about 5-6 years ago.
With a little bit of lubrication, coaxing, you can pack a 38 special in your ass, okay, or in your prison purse.
Also, I mean, you could wear a pistol belt and still have your junk out, right? We knew a couple of nudists back in the day that owned a lake house down the lake from us, and we were hanging out with them one time. They went to a nudist colony. They spent their time in a nudist colony. And they'd talk about, Tracy would talk about going bowling. And she'd say, it's something they like to do. She had a thick British accent that I'm not going to try to replicate here. But she'd say, it's something they like to do. They like to go bowling. And, you're all naked and doing the bowling thing. And they shut down the bowling alley for us. And we go in there. But I hate it because the only fashion statement you get to make is those bloody awful shoes.
I guess you could You could hover your balls over the hand drying, slot, right, where you go to pick up
Yeah.
your ball. That'd be pretty
You
cool.
know
I
what?
guess.
I could see that. I could see that right there almost being worth the trip. So I hate to do it to you, Mario. I'm going to have to hard out at
Market zero, Smokey. Market zero.
I'm going to have to hit the road pretty early this morning. So let's we'll do this for. It's not exactly a DGU, but here we go. Manchester latest. One of victims killed in attack was hit by police gunfire. Chief Constable says.
Well,
Oh no! We've got to disarm the constables now.
That's right.
Oh God,
Hey, dude.
Starmer, we must beat anti-Semitism. You know what, Mario?
Yeah.
Forget about Israel and all that stuff for a moment. I think Starmer's correct. They need to stamp out anti-Semitism entirely in the UK. And you know what the first step toward eliminating anti-Semitism in a society is?
Maybe eliminating the constant inflow of people who are the most anti-Semitic in the world.
Correct.
Perhaps
Deport all the Muslims.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to stamp out anti-Semitism? You have to deport all the Muslims.
His name was Jihad. Okay.
Yeah.
He was right there. Like he was literally a beacon in the darkness, screaming, "Deport me!" A beacon. My parents named me Struggle. Okay, that was your first clue.
So Starmer says, I say it to each and every one of you and to everyone who is responding, it was a dreadful terrorist attack to inflict fear. Okay, so we can know that clearly when one of the special people dies. We don't have to quibble about, well, maybe it was the Groypers because Charlie Kirk wasn't far right enough. No, it was a Jew. It was a Jew that got stabbed and killed. It was a synagogue that got attacked. Okay, we can automatically, without any consideration at all, presuppose motive. Gotcha. Now, like Mario said, the guy's first name is Jihad. I would argue that is, in fact, evidence.
Yeah.
In the nature versus nurture argument, nurture just won the war.
Yeah, really. Yep.
He says, we must beat anti-Semitism. That is the responsibility of us all. We will rise to that challenge to ensure our Jewish community is safe and secure. That will be massively helped by what you have done and continue to do. The degree of professionalism you showed was of the highest order. I know when I speak to you, you will say you were only doing your job, but it was a very challenging day. Except apparently, one of the people who died was shot by the cops, which does not speak to an especially high degree of professionalism in the application of arms by the armed authority.
Well, I mean, imagine what firearms training or going to the range. Imagine like the bureaucratic mess that would entail as for a British cop. Okay, how many pieces of paper and permission chits, okay, and safety inspections would a British police officer have to complete, okay, to even go to the range, to even handle the weapon, okay?
Right.
If you didn't do like some John Cleese, like, Ministry of Silly Walks type of procedure, right? With your weapon, you could be sentenced like 10 years. Like, well, actually, no, it's the UK. It's the UK. No, like 10 years in prison is like serial rapist. Okay, that's 10 years. Okay, maybe
if you're white.
Yeah, if you're white, only if you are actually English. Okay, because if you are ethnically of that island, okay, you are the second-class citizen. The absolute state of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, citizen hostages.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, the hostage state of Great Britain.
I don't know. Nigel Farage is going to be our next prime minister. Maybe he can help, but he's
resoundingly.
He's not what they really need. Like what they really need is like they need like fucking Longshanks, okay? They, they need Richard. They need Richard the Lionheart. Okay, is what they really need.
You know, I was just watching a video about the Crusades. I hope you're. Yeah, Mario, you need to start working on the Crusades deep dive. Not for tomorrow. I've already got tomorrow's deep dive in the can.
Yeah.
Start working on the Crusades deep dive. I will, and when we do that one, I want to cover it in the context of how the basically we're seeing the same pattern of Islamist expansion that sparked the original Crusades.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the original crusade was a response to 600 years of aggression. Okay, like the Crusaders weren't they were slow to anger, they were slow to hate. Okay, but yeah,
after 600 years
after
of
600 years of aggression, yes, they basically put together a team. All right, and took back land.
so,
Anyway, they say
yeah,
new king. Yeah, that is true. I want to talk to someone, not a citizen, of course, but the UK doesn't have citizens anymore; they have subjects. I'd like to speak to a British subject about what it would mean if the king just came out and said, "Fuck it, I dissolve Parliament. I'm in charge now. I order the army to basically order the army into the streets to secure law and order." Okay, what's the feasibility of that in the UK? Like what? Because in the end, what matters is where does the loyalty of the army lie, and where does the loyalty of would the people accept the troops in the streets if it meant safety? Okay, I tend to think that the king would have a lot of popular support if he did that. Okay, and that's what I would do.
yeah.
What do you have to
Legally, he has that authority.
What do you have to lose? You have no rights. You don't even have right to to security in your own person. Okay, if you don't even have that right, what the fuck do you have to lose? Anyway,
Yeah,
got me ranting.
Well, like I said, I got a hard out, so I'll go ahead and button it up there. It is Friday, so be safe out there, guys. You know, don't drive drink, don't fry bacon naked, and sex, drugs, rock and roll, farm animals, and videotape. No two at the same time.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I set the pot to set the coffee pot to brew. Okay, and I went and laid back down. And I'm like, no, I don't need to hit snooze. I'll just get up in a couple minutes. It'll be okay. Yeah.
That's never how that works. See, what you need that full body massage chair. You set the timer for 20 or 30 minutes, and when it's done, it dumps you out on the floor.
Yep. Rod Purvis mentions Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell led a revolt, okay, against Charles II, I believe, right? Actually beheaded Charles II and then established a kind of a quasi Republican style revolutionary government. Okay, ultimately that didn't work. Cromwell was a monster, though. Cromwell like massacred Irish. All right, he was launched genocidal campaigns against the Irish. All right, so Oliver Cromwell will always be a bastard.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, guys. Tomorrow's the deep dive. We're doing rights and responsibilities. So make sure you tune in tomorrow evening at 2100. And until then, we love you, and we will see you tomorrow.
Ciao.
Yeah, I hate to cut it off short this morning, but I gotta be in Augusta in about 2 hours.